The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Madam President, thank you so much for being with us. It's a pleasure hosting you. I'm so much proud to say that it's first business TV in Georgia and the region. Thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Us. Thank you. Tell me about your tour through the region and about the existing meetings, ongoing meetings in Georgia. As far as I know, your meetings are held with both private sector and governmental agencies as well, please.
So indeed, it's a tour in the Caucasus.
Yes.
I started in Azerbaijan, then today, tomorrow, Tbilisi, and then I will also go to Armenia. Mm-hmm. And indeed, here I met government, number of ministers with whom we work very closely, but also the private sector, because most of our activity in Georgia is in the private sector. SMEs, bigger enterprises, and in a lot of sectors. I also met with the Investors Council, so representative of business association, different grouping SMEs. There are also bigger companies. Very interesting meeting because
there are a lot of stakeholders within this.
Yes, and it's very impressive to see how they work together. So coming with different perspective, big foreign investors, with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but also SMEs, Georgian SMEs, and coming to a joint position on what is key to develop economic activity, private sector in the country, and having a very strong partnership and dialogue, very effective with the government. And I think we support the secretariat of this structure, and we think it's very efficient in terms of promoting investment and finding solutions to very concrete problems, which can be financial market issues, regulation, very specific initiative that helps growing the private sector.
Yeah, at the same time, I know that EBRD is following Investment Council, maybe like a role model, because it's working quite effective in other countries as well. So,
but I think the country in which, here it's very effective. I cannot give a rank. The team here tells me it's the best one, but I think, my impression is that very effective. It's not the case in all countries. In some countries it's much more difficult because either the government is not so much interested, does not listen, or companies represent their own interests and not the collective view. So I think here you have a mix of factors which explain it's very successful, and I think very pragmatic. And concrete.
Okay. Taking into consideration your tour through Caucasus countries, at the same time quite vulnerable situation within the region, at least in a big, broader picture, post-pandemic situation, if I may call it already post-pandemic, but this 2 years and a half, it's been absolutely a precedent for the whole world. What can we say? What kind of opportunities it creates for the Black Sea region and for this particular region you are visiting?
First of all, I would like to say that post-pandemic and in view of the geopolitical context, which is of course challenging, in particular for the region, the economic situation is very strong. I'm struck by the sound fundamentals and the fact that the rebound post-pandemic has been very strong, and this year too, there are some specific factors which support growth in Georgia. Probably double-digit growth is expected following a strong rebound already in 2021. So I think there are, much better than expected growth outcome. There are some temporary specific factors, but strong, also quite structural one, strong rebound in tourism, which is one of the, big driver, key driver, strong share of GDP. And I've seen some hospitality, I met with some hospitality clients, and they told us, they are back to 80% of the level of activity in 2019.
Same official statistics, Madam President.
Yeah, so that's very good results. There is also specific factors like, people coming from Ukraine, but also people coming from Russia or Belarus.
You're talking about migration,
migration, and
Might be temporary.
It might be temporary, but it might be also, it might last, because if Georgia is seen a nice place to live, with good connection, good connectivity, good factors for staying. So that could be, of course, that's not, it could be temporary, so we need to, the country needs to be prepared, but for the time being, it plays a very positive role in terms of, creating new businesses, increasing, demand for products in Georgia and so forth. So this has also a positive effect on growth.
Yeah, I still hope, crossing fingers, about two-digit economic growth in Georgia.
But looking at the broader region, I think one of the important elements in the current geopolitical context and with the development with Russia is, for example, the role of the region in the Middle Corridor. So as new logistic avenues for export between Central Asia and Europe, and maybe China and Europe. So I think there are new opportunities which the country is seizing as well, and it's the same discussion in Azerbaijan in order to develop the logistics needed to seize the opportunity and to build up on this opportunity.
Madam President, how will Georgia, there is a much, how can I call it, press on some additional values happening. You mentioned about the demand, which is created definitely by locals and from migrants and tourism sector definitely, but about logistics and about new opportunities. Is EBRD definitely looking for these new opportunities funding in Georgia? Because as far as I remember, there have been a lot of interest in various directions. I will talk with you and discuss them a bit later on, but definitely it might be Georgian railway system, which is state-owned. It might be new ports. It might be your previous interest within ports like deep sea port like Anaklia was, which is suspended and under court dispute right today. What kind of opportunities EBRD is trying to find in Georgia which will fulfill these new opportunities and new chances for further development of our economy? And regional one as well.
So first of all, we've been financing an ongoing project with key infrastructure in the road sector and so forth. So this is being developed, implemented. We just, a new bridge between with Armenia inaugurated last week, I think. So this is already something we've been doing with other IFIs in the last years. And we are indeed working with a railway company, for example, on digitalization. And we are ready
of the Georgian railway.
Of the Georgian railway. And looking at, open to discuss possible new needs. We've been also working on the port with a maritime system in order to see what is needed. On Anaklia, you mentioned, I think it's first a decision to be taken to the government by the government, and to see whether development of a new port, construction of a new port is, how to do it, and what is the business model, and so forth. There are also a number of possibilities to develop dry ports, to enhance the port capacity of existing ports. So I think there are a number of options that need to be explored and further studied. But of course, we stand ready to contribute and to engage on different projects. This is also something we've been discussing with Azerbaijan government
as well.
Of course.
Madam President, can we mention and identify energy sector together with infrastructural projects and renewable energy, green economics as definitely priority of the EBRD, which you might implement in Georgia together with local stakeholders? It might be government, it might be private sector. And at the same time, I had an opportunity to attend your press conference, online one. Thank you for that as well. And you mentioned about small and medium hydropower plants. Does that mean that large hydropower plants are not, I cannot say bankable, but welcome from EBRD?
So first of all, indeed, energy and green energy is key for us.
Key for us.
We have an objective for the bank to have 50% of our investment in the green sector, and we were there last year. This year it may be a bit more difficult because of energy crisis in some countries, which has an effect on our investment. But this is key for us, and this is the objective we have for 25 and further on. Second priority for us is to be fully Paris aligned, so to have all our projects in line with and consistent with the Paris Agreement, which is very demanding, and this will start in beginning of 2023. So indeed, green energy, key priority, and development of renewable in this country is also very important. We believe there is a very strong potential, and we are not the only one to believe that. I think all developers are thinking about that and seeing the wind capacity and the solar. Of course, starting with Georgia start from quite a good position in terms of decarbonized energy, and because of the very strong hydropower capacity. So we have been working a lot with the authorities in order to develop a framework supportive for which facilitates the development of renewable, and we've already financed a number of projects. I think that this should be, accelerated. There is a need really, this is a right time to do that. And when you look at the energy security issue, the energy price crisis in Europe, I think really investing in renewable is the right thing to do. Also to support the increase in demand in the country. I met this morning with a client, Georgian company in the electricity energy. And they were explaining that in view to support the growth in GDP, you need to have more and more and strong demand, strong increase in capacity in electricity production. So I think that will be the priority for us. It's a very positive thing in this area is that it brings also private investors. And there, as I was saying, there is a strong interest from private developers, and that will be FDI in the country. No need for public government investment directly. So that's, I think, a very important way forward, and for us a key strategic priority moving forward. As far as hydropower plants are concerned, we've been investing, and we've been investing in Hungary and rehabilitation of the dam and so forth. And we are focusing more now on small project, because for IFI, like a new, very big hydropower plant project, may sometimes we have some constraint in terms of, and some we are very demanding in terms of requirement for environmental and impact, which makes it sometimes challenging.
The main issue is, if I got you correctly, environmental one, yeah? But priority definitely is going to be small and medium hydropower plants as well. Yeah, in Georgia. Yeah.
And renewable. And wind and solar.
Yeah, absolutely. So taking into consideration, the institutional investors, Madam President, they are emphasizing the importance of renewable energy. Definitely so, and including hydropower plants, and at the same time, which directions of the Georgian economy you see as a potential one, which should be paid more attention from the local and investors? It's going to be definitely energy, logistics, infrastructure development. Can you add anything which is definitely priority for EBRD, which might be a good message for other investors to do more?
No, I think from our perspective, what is also very important is to support the development of SMEs. As I was saying, there is a huge potential. I think that it's very striking when visiting the country that you have a vibrant entrepreneurship community and potential. And I think that developing, for example, export capacity to Europe is very, there is a lot of traditional export to Russia. But diversification of export capacity and so forth is very important. That's why I was very happy to sign with a big bank here, a credit line to facilitate export, to support SMEs in enhancing competitiveness, developing green investment, improving energy efficiency, and export capacities to Europe. And I think that's something which needs to be, because this is the way you will, to increase the sustainability of the economy, not to depend too much from external factors, but really have strong growth dynamics, internal growth dynamics.
Just a few hours ago, we received another press release from EBRD confirming funding of the Georgian healthcare sector as well, which is also dynamically developing, also a part of the London Stock Exchange and etc. So healthcare developing is also like an interest of EBRD as well.
Yes, because we found a very good client, strong partnership, and really good strategic planning, good vision, and addressing needs. So I think it's an important sector of investment for us in this country.
Have the recent developments like COVID, war in Ukraine, fundamentally changed a lot of things, investment environment in Georgia, and did it change the evaluation criteria used by the EBRD before? And are these criteria changed after these developments?
I don't think it has changed our evaluation criteria, but I think COVID and the COVID crisis and now the war in Ukraine has changed a bit the way the world is seeing, global development and so forth. For example, this idea to have diversify supply chain in order to avoid to rely on one single country for one product, and then if the country is in lockdown, for example, as it happened during the COVID crisis, you are stuck without, you have, no access to production. So all these elements, now also diversification, for example, of energy supply, which is a big theme in Europe, all these elements change a bit the way investment and the private sector and also policymakers will think about growth and their strategic development. I think this is the de facto, new consideration that probably were not so much taken into account before this crisis. The second element is also the importance of building resilience. So, to have sound macro policies, strong institutions, good governance, and so forth is very important to enhance the resilience of a country, and resilience is the name of the game when you are facing such big crisis.
Okay, and could you be so kind to tell us more about your current portfolio in Georgia, your major partner, because EBRD as a bank, EBRD as a financial institution is not just part of the Georgian economy, it's one of the biggest investors during last 30 years. And so could you identify partners and at the same time those spheres which are traditional interests of yours?
So we've been working a lot with the banking sector.
Absolutely,
and
yes.
With almost all banks in Georgia, in particular the two largest banks, and we have a large portfolio with them in order to finance. I think almost all our products have been developed in Georgia. So finance for SMEs, as a loan I mentioned, but also women in business, energy efficiency, so all, trade finance. So I think we do a lot we cooperate a lot with the banking system in Georgia. It's a real partnership. We also support their development abroad. So, for example, I was meeting with a bank which has developed in Uzbekistan, and we accompanied. That's also something which we find very important also for the future of the country. We work a lot also with, as I was saying, SMEs, direct private sector. We have, you mentioned one of the clients we have in the health sector, but we also work with hospitality sector, agribusiness, wine sector. I mean, all in this we do not have specific target. It's really opportunity, and we are ready to, working with finding clients and supporting our clients. Very often it's a partnership, so it's not just a one-off, but we accompany the development of the clients. TBC, the bank I was signing with, we accompanied them since the beginning, since their creation, and I remember the first loan we gave them, we extended to them 3 million, which was very strategic for them in their growth. So that's interesting story in a way, and long-term partnership.
Yeah, I remember the period, Madam President, when the staff of that bank was 38. Now it's around 8,000.
Yeah, and expanding and very technological. So, that's
in Uzbekistan as well.
Yeah,
quite impressive.
So that's that's very impressive.
Uzbekistan has another gain. Last just a few weeks ago, head of Georgian stock exchange. He became a head of Tashkent, Uzbekistan stock exchange. So he's there as well.
We also have public sector clients, and for example,
yes,
I wanted to mention the program we've developed with BDC in terms of green city.
Green cities.
And the green city concept, which we now export in 50 cities,
was a pioneer
it's been
in
developed here. And BDC was the first city in this green city program, which is now one of the flagship of the EBRD. So it's also, Georgia has been a very, interesting country for us to innovate and develop new concepts, new ideas. And I think we had done 10 projects in the city to enhance waste management, transportation with green buses, all kind of projects, all related to improving the quality of life for BDC citizens. I understand this is very much needed because the city is growing quite quickly.
I'm so much happy to hear, just not to develop, but at the same time to export all of these newly launched projects in Georgia. My last question still goes to Ukraine and this vulnerable situation in the region. We both know that we will have long way ahead about the outcome of this war, and nobody knows when this war is going to be finished. Did it change a lot your vision, the institutional vision of EBRD, how to cover other projects and other activities, and how this will reflect generally to the regional economy, taking into consideration Georgia? We do have neighbors with the highest inflation, like Turkey, within the region. At the same time, vulnerable internal situation within the region. But how all these things is reflecting on your day-by-day and short-term and long-term projects?
The first impact of the war on Ukraine has been for us to formally suspend all our activity in Russia and Belarus. And we were not providing any new financing since 2014 to Russia because of what happened at that point of time. But now we took a formal decision with the support of a very, very large majority of the shareholders to formally suspend and stop any project and any disbursement in these two countries. So that was the first immediate reaction and impact. And then I think we really designed a specific program in order to support the countries the most affected by the war. And the impact on some countries, so Georgia is benefiting from strong growth and so forth. You do not see immediate negative impact of the war, but in some countries the negative impact of energy price and food price is very large. So this is a priority for us to help our countries of operation, including in the Mediterranean region, to really overcome these challenges and deal with the current situation. In some countries, we had, for example, to provide liquidity line to to companies to buy gas in order to avoid disruption.
I was following that.
The impact of the war on the different countries even if, I mean, all these countries are quite close, but the impact is very different, and some countries are really facing challenges. So that's, I mean, I think, and our capacity to react quickly and to adjust to the needs of our clients is really one of our priority, and the lesson also we draw from the crisis that we need to be ready each time to adjust how we work in order to support our countries of operation.
Can we resume that we have definitely a package of lessons learned after pandemic and ongoing war within the region?
Yes, indeed, you always learn from crisis, unfortunately. But I think that we learned from the financial crisis in 2008, 2010, I think, and when you see the resilience of the banking system in a number, I mean, most countries, this shows that the lessons learned were very constructive and helpful now, but of course we learn new lessons on how to manage, also to anticipate healthcare, I mean, health risk, be prepared for pandemics and so forth.
Madam President, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure hosting you here, and thank you so much for your visit.
Thank you very much.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.